Good morning, sunshine. Welcome to the morning show based on mental health, mental strength, and your overall well-being. I'm going to be your host today, Brandon Lee, alongside my good friend, Carey Pena.
And we have some incredible conversations to share with all of you. Two really brave women are in studio with us. Tiffany Lee Gaston, who's a friend of mine. She's a fitness expert, very well known nationally and around the world, in fact. She's coming to talk for the first time about a mental health breakdown that she had during COVID and how she was able to turn things around for herself. There was a lot to the story, and we're so appreciative of her being here. Also, Deborah Terra is here in studio with us. Her son so sadly died by suicide. This was service-related. He was a combat veteran, and she has taken that passion, that pain, and turned it into a passion to help others who are suffering from trauma. We're going to talk about Reboot Recovery and her brave journey coming up here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of strength, especially on the road to recovery, right? So it just, sometimes it's so hard to speak about trauma when it's so close to that incident.
Yeah.
But one way to heal is to be active about it and to try to help others. That's a good way to try to help people heal. I know how hard it is to speak publicly about something that does happen, traumatic events that happen in your life. You worry about the perception of others when they look at you, but the moment you kind of own it and you're able to help others, it really does help give you strength to be able to speak openly about it. So I'm looking forward to meeting both of them and hearing more of their stories. But first up on Good Morning Sunshine, let's talk about what's going down in our medical community and behavioral health. There's a really cool piece of technology that's out there that we truly believe has the impact here, has a potential here to change a lot of lives. It's called Insight Tech. Essentially, it is a scan. There you sit there on those scan machines, you go in through the scan machine, and what it's doing is it's looking in the brain where there is disease. That disease causing, for example, like Parkinson's disease, you know, where you have trouble controlling a lot of your movements.
Tremors,
the tremors. And so what it's going is this scan is going, finding out where the disease is in your brain. It's able to send some sort of signals and brain waves to the area of the disease to help people control some of the tremors.
And our producer, Christina, bravely shares her family's story. Her father is walking through that journey with Parkinson's, so she brought this story to us because it's a modality they're looking into, not yet available, I understand, in Arizona, but it is available at universities across the country, so she's examining UCLA for her father. So we'll keep all of our audience posted on that as well.
Yeah, right now I believe 41 states are offering this, this new technology, and hopefully it'll be in all 50 states, plus hopefully all insurance coverage will eventually cover the folks who need this the most.
Yeah, and thanks to Christina's father for allowing us to share a bit of his
absolutely.
story. And now it's time for our story behind the story, and the beautiful Tiffany Lee Gaston is here with us today. She's here to talk about what she went through during COVID. Hi, Tiff.
Good to see you.
So good to see you. Thank you for coming on today. I'm so appreciative. You and I just want to put it out there that we spoke over the months. You and I have been friends. I've interviewed you on my podcast. You're a very well-known fitness expert, and we spoke about what you'd been going through during COVID. And at first you were very private about it because it's a hard thing to talk about because you had a mental health breakdown.
Yes.
And then you texted me, you said, you know, Cara, I might want to come on the show with you and Brandon and talk about this in hopes of helping other people. So just tell the audience a bit about what happened.
So I've had a very successful career in the fitness realm for quite a while, and I took a pretty big step back around 2019 to manage my daughter's music career. As you know, my daughter Jules was on season 18 of The Voice. As a minor, she had to go away for a while and live in a hotel and needed a guardian. I really stepped back quite a bit from my role in the fitness realm to cater to that, and during that time frame, my massive Instagram account was hacked, and I had no assistance getting it back from Facebook or Instagram, and I sort of said, I don't want to do what it takes to build that again. I wasn't willing to, and sadly, I sort of quit peddling. I think we all know that when we show up for ourselves each and every day with purpose and passion, it gives us a reason to wake up and walk through this world. And suddenly I stepped back, I put myself in a different position, and I just really quit showing up for myself. My husband and I went away to celebrate our 20-year wedding anniversary in Dubai, and as we were on the other side of the world, it began to shut down. We come back and, you know, everyone's living in a fear-based state. I'm, you know, looking at my young daughter with, you know, stars in her eyes for the future, and now she's part of a season that's going to air during a pandemic from their sofa at home. I just felt like I stepped into the most massive victim role I ever have in my life. The way in which I look at others and said, like, no, like, stand up and do what you should do. It's no one's responsibility but you. I began with that mindset. I would say it was a very insidious timeline where it just sort of like built upon itself, being forced at home with 3 kids and then suddenly homeschooling. I was really struggling with anxiety and depression and didn't realize how bad it was because the internal rumblings that we're supposed to listen to and sort of cater to, I started trying to stifle with alcohol and drugs. Clearly that is a recipe for disaster, and really took me to a deep, dark place. 2020, I blew a disc in my back, and I came to understand that it was from all the toxic negativity that I was carrying on, and I discovered meditation. So that was one way that I tried to crawl out from under the depression. Ultimately, I was still in the thick of it, and it took me over, and in November of last year, I had a mental breakdown. I didn't know what that was. I've never experienced anything like it, but I was so overwhelmed that I just gave up. I reached out to a physician of mine and I begged for medication to fix it. These things are often treated with a Band-Aid. And, you know, medication-resistant depression is a very real thing for very many people. And I didn't want to slap a Band-Aid on it, but that Band-Aid that I took out of complete, like, was my Hail Mary, ultimately took me deeper. And that can happen with a lot of these drugs. I discovered some really, truly incredible doctors, advanced wellness and pain, having done some research with ketamine infusions and discovering the benefits for mental health. Along with PTSD. So my anxiety was off the charts. My PTSD is kind of a stacked, layered effect throughout lifelong trauma here and there. And I had a rupture, and it needed to happen. And I'm so pleased to say that I'm not where I'm going, but I'm on my way every day. The ketamine infusions that I utilized that are now available more readily than they ever have been. Sadly, they are not covered by insurance, but they were my lifeline. They helped shift my perspective. Nothing is a fix here, but it's a perspective shift. And kind of along with all these different modalities, I started to really put myself back together. A big team, but I've been most grateful to fire my psychiatrist because they've got one job and it's writing a script. So luckily I found sort of what was beneath the hood that needed to be addressed, and this will be lifelong for me. But as long as I'm aware that I will always be someone that needs to maintain a mental health hygiene, that's just what it is.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for being open and sharing that part of your story. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I want to first talk about some words that you chose where you said that you ruptured your disc in the lower part of your back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what that sent me signals and saying, I do shamanism. Mm-hmm. And you ever heard the book, The Body Keeps a Score, right?
Yes.
So when trauma happens, we store that traumatic energy. We remember those traumatic events in the lower part of our brain, but we store that energy in the lower part of our spines. Okay, so when you said that, I'm like, your body had probably stored up too much trauma that it didn't know what to do, and it was eventually causing you a lot of pain.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, was there trauma early on in your life that you had yet to heal from? Because what I will also tell people is the pandemic only exacerbated pre-existing traumas that had lived inside of all of us. So the pandemic in and of itself was a traumatic event.
Yeah.
But for those of us who experienced, because I relapsed in 2020, the pandemic caused my relapse after umpteen years of continuous recovery because of unhealed trauma that I never healed from. So when the pandemic hit, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I began violently shaking every single night. So where you had a ruptured disc, I was experiencing huge shakes at night, and that caused my relapse. So I'm just wondering, was there early childhood trauma that you experienced that perhaps you didn't heal from that eventually caught up to you?
Very much. I would say it's a possibility. I think it's fair to say it's a certainty. I haven't been able to completely unpack from 0 to 7.
The early childhood trauma.
Yeah, but I was a child that attempted suicide in my freshman year of high school. I wrote about it in my book. I didn't want to die, but I needed help, and something was wrong inside, and I didn't know how to ask. I also battled disordered eating much of my life, which is also why when I became a very successful fitness presence, I have 11 magazine covers to my name, which was such an incredible feat for me. I didn't want it like this glossy highlight reel, like people say, social media. I needed young girls to say, if they wanted to say, I want to be like her, they needed to see that I fell down a million times before I got on that cover. And that's the value in sharing this. I live out loud, and I seem to recover and try to heal even more outwardly. And that is something I've just thrown myself on the cross for, but I like to make my mess my message, because if it resonates, like something about you, and I know we have a lot of similar unique things in our history, but until you really pinpoint some of those things, you're right, they're coming back for you.
Yes.
That's why I say this pimple needed to pop, this rupture was gonna happen. If it didn't happen now, it's gonna happen down the line. You can't operate like that long term without snapping. And I realize now how powerful my anxiety has been through my lifetime. It's been a driving force of a lot of my success. Never in my wildest dreams did I connect those two and see that there's a healthier way to drive yourself or to manage that, or this was coming down the line,
I am so forward thinking, and I've been in recovery a very, very, very long time. And I am absolutely forward thinking when it comes to modalities and different sciences and different medications that are out there. And we're going to be talking a lot about microdosing shrooms. There's studies being done on microdosing LSD and hallucinogenics to help people who have suffered a lot of trauma. Ketamine clinics are all over the valley now. And it is a resource that a lot of people who've experienced trauma are going to, rather than your other traditional pharmaceuticals. And I'm just wondering, tell me some of the impacts that the ketamine treatments have done for you and what you've gone through.
So, again, I want to preface it with, it's not a magic drug, and there are these places popping up all over, and that's why I want to caution people, go where you've researched, go where you know they are legitimate. If they're going to hook you up to a strand and a bunch of people are all being infused and no one's catering to that, absolutely no. Advanced Wellness and Pain. Doctors Wong, Latham, and Sharma are my heroes. They provide what is called a 6-pack, because when you have severe trauma or anxiety and you're starting from a more elevated state, as I was, they want 6 up front. Infusions rather, separated by about 2 days each. So you get those in the first 2 weeks, and then you kind of evaluate. And they sort of knew up front that I was going to be a little bit more than a 6-pack. I'm on about my 9th or 10th infusion now. I had one in early May. I will only be utilizing them once a quarter for a little touch-up. And there's high-level CEOs that utilize this just to really up-level themselves. This is like the 5th gear of personal development. This is like the benefit of what meditation does, but it gets you right in the void immediately. And so to go in there and be able to unpack and just lean into the experience is a very, very light dose of ketamine, which is a drug used in the OR to put people under for surgery. Traditionally, but they have found this benefit to where it takes your problems, say these are your problems, and it puts them right here. So now you gain a greater perspective to really say, okay, this isn't the end of the world. I need to cater to this. This is a serious issue, but I'm going to breathe through it. I'm going to do the things that I need to do, and just sort of step back, slow everything down, and become the silent observer of your world so that you can kind of catch those things. So I think that's the greatest gift that it's given me, is just to really kind of reevaluate my perspective in a lot of things, because we can get so lost in our mind.
I'm going to have to have you on the podcast. I'm going to have you on my podcast. I'd love to go deep on all that stuff with you.
And you've got a lot of modalities that you can share that I want to look into as well.
So. Well, that's what we're committed to doing. And so thank you so much again, Tiff, for being here to share the story with our viewers and listeners. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And now we want to talk about a segment that we produced in our Inspired Media 360 studios. This is called Inspired Living, with our correspondent Zenobia Mertel. And she talks to an expert in how to arrange your home, feng shui, whatever you want to call it. There's different ways that it's termed. But this is all about creating a prosperous and calm home. Take a look.
Feng shui is the Chinese art and science of really incorporating the energy of our space into our lives. So we're understanding how the energy within our physical environment can support us. So when our lives have support from our physical environment, it's just easier to achieve the things that we want, like well-being, a sense of empowerment, confidence, Sometimes it's wealth, sometimes it's good health, sometimes it's good relationships. All of that is part of what we do in feng shui.
Okay, so like what we like to say here a lot is mind, body, and spirit. It's very inspiring. You can break that down, but feng shui has so many aspects to it. So first of all, what is this? And tell me what people need to know about if they want to balance things out and bring feng shui into their life.
So there's a lot of different perspectives on feng shui, and I'm a classically trained feng shui practitioner. So this is one of the tools that I use. This is called a lo pan. This is the Chinese compass, and we use this to get a very specific orientation of the facing of a house. And that specific orientation can tell us where the good energy hotspots are in the property and where the spots are that may need some extra support. So it tells us where you can go to the home, where in your home you can go into to use the best available energy. So it's a little bit like a Wi-Fi router. If you're working, or a map, right? If you're working from home and you're trying to get the best internet connection, you're gonna go to the part of the house where the internet is strongest, where the energy is most vibrant, so you can be positive that what you're doing is gonna have a good result. Same thing with feng shui. We wanna plug you into the right areas of the house so that you can feel supported.
So why do you want to be in the right energetic space in your life? Why is that important?
Well, when you're not in the right energetic space, you may feel like there's obstacles, things aren't going your way. Sometimes you just can't put your finger on it, something feels off. You can't seem to figure out like why you can't go where you wanna go, why the relationships aren't coming, why you're not achieving the things that you want, or maybe you feel like you're constantly running into the same pattern. You get so far and then you get stopped. You try again, you get so far and you get stopped.
You know I'm all about the feng shui. I'm all about the feng shui. Furniture and artwork in a house actually will improve your mood. It can either actually negatively improve your mood too. So I'm all about adding color, adding new artwork, change the furniture around. You will walk into your house with a whole new vibe.
It's huge.
Huge.
And you as an artist, you see how people react to your art and how happy they are when they hang something on the wall.
Yeah, you want a conversation starter. And I always say artwork should be a conversation starter in your house. Here's the other thing I will say. People who have like light colored furniture, they're always afraid to put a piece of colored furniture in their house. I'm like, that's cool. If you want like your beiges and your tans and your creams, your safe colors for your furniture, then do something bright on the walls with a piece of artwork.
A little bit of sunshine.
A little bit of sunshine, yes.
Now for our Mind, Body, Spirit segment, and we have another incredibly courageous woman in studio with us today, Debbie Terra, and we appreciate so much you being here. This is the first time you've spoken publicly about your story. Your son, Brian, was a combat veteran who died by suicide after suffering service-related trauma.
Yes.
And you and your family have been through a terrible, heartbreaking ordeal. And we're going to talk first about that and then about Reboot Recovery and how you are using that deep pain and turning it into a passion to help so many other people. Can you tell us first about Brian and what happened?
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you again. Thank you both for having me on. Life is different. That's how I describe it. Life is different, and it will never go back the way it was. My son, Brian, he was 27. He was a Marine veteran, and he took his life on August 19th, 2018. It was devastating to say the least, especially because my older son was also a Marine veteran, and my younger son had to find Brian. So it impacted the family terribly, but you know, it has put me on a journey. It was the following Mother's Day that I needed to do something. I had to do something because this has been going on with our military, with our veterans. It shouldn't be, and it's constantly going on. It went on before Brian took his life, and during, and it's still going on. So it just tore me apart, and just seeing the family and trying to just pick up the pieces. So.
When we talk about trauma and your son being a veteran, did you see signs that maybe he was struggling? Was it anxiety? Was it depression? Some people are very good, by the way, very, very good at masking all of those trauma and the side effects. So what did you see? Did you notice anything?
Up, down, discontentment. Yeah. He moved a lot, but we had moved here from New York, in case you couldn't tell. And he was living in Colorado, and he decided to come to Arizona and be close to us. And it was supposed to be a new beginning, and things were great. There's palm trees outside the window. His moods were up. He was great. Generous, loving, always there for us, fun, comedian. But when he was down in a dark mood, it was not good. He was not into pill taking. As a society, we like to put a Band-Aid on. We just hear the symptoms, put a Band-Aid on, but we never get to that root. And he just, that was,
Just became too much.
Yeah, just a lot.
You're very brave to talk about this, and you're not the only family that this is happening to. And there's a lot of families out there that I hope who are watching will be able to gain some strength by your testimony today and what you've gone through, because there is a lot of shame around suicide. I know this because I attempted to take my life in January 2021, a little over a year ago, because the walls in my life got so dark. And that's part of the stigma, is that sometimes society, if they've never experienced trauma and they've never seen it up close, they look at people as weak. And what I tell people through that lived experience is you don't know what it's like until you're there. And you truly don't see a way out. When trauma happens to us, it can give birth to our life's purpose. I am now living my life's purpose after that attempt, because I'm starting to heal finally from the trauma that sent me down that dark hole. This traumatic life event that happened to you and your family back in 2018 has now given you purpose in your life by Reboot Recovery. What is Reboot Recovery, and how are you trying to save that next life?
So I feel like this was it was meant for me, because it just kept popping up in my path. And that Mother's Day weekend, it hung on me that whole weekend. Reboot, reboot, reboot. Okay. And Monday morning, I called up. I got the phone number. I called up Reboot in Tennessee. And my line was, hey, I'm a mom of veterans. I'm a daughter of a veteran. I'm a granddaughter of a veteran. I really don't know if I can do this program, if I can facilitate this program, but I needed to call you today. That's all I know. I needed to call you, so tell me what I need to do, because I have to do something. And they were so wonderful. They're like, yes, you can do it. You can do this. And they heard my story, and they said, we will guide you and get you started the best we can.
So Debbie, tell everyone what exactly you guys do.
So Reboot Recovery is a phenomenal organization, and it's a 12-week faith-based program. And what it does is, I will say it's free too. It's a free service. We attract our veterans, but not just the veterans, their families, because we know firsthand how much it impacts our families as well. Yeah. And we start with a simple dinner, just to get comfortable and start that community, because that's what it's about. And then we go and watch a short video, and we get these field guides, and it opens up, depending on the topic in the video, it opens up a discussion. You can share, you cannot share. You can sit there and just listen. In our first group, we had a Marine veteran. He came with his wife. He kept his head down for almost 6 weeks. Never gave eye contact, never said a word. All of a sudden, that 7th week, he shared. It was just incredible. It was incredible what he shared. And he has come so far and such a long way. In fact, his wife also shared her story, and she now facilitates, she's one of my co-leaders, and she facilitates the trauma reboot classes. And that is what the goal is for this, because I know you said, I'm strong. I'm not strong. I'm not. But how I do this is because hearing your story helps me. And that's what it's all about. Whatever you can share helps me so much. And it's back and forth. And so when we started with Reboot Combat Recovery, Trauma Reboot didn't exist yet, but we saw the siblings, the spouses, the parents, all the other family members. And when at the end of the 12 weeks, you're encouraged to write your story. Again, you have a choice to share it, but at least write it and get it down. And people found that some of their traumas started way back before they joined up. Spouses brought so much to the table. Everybody had something to bring to the table. And we realized that, or I should say the organization realized that we should have for everyone. Everyone should have it. And so then we started also doing the Trauma Reboot. And it's just been so incredible, and that also turned out some of our graduates who are now facilitating.
Again, we're just so appreciative of you coming today and sharing your story in hopes of helping others.
Thank you.
And God bless you and your family.
Thank you.
We're so sorry about the loss of your son.
Thank you.
But we're sharing his name and his photo and keeping his memory alive. So thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we'll put the information for Reboot Recovery on the screen, and we'll also share it out on our social media. Now we're going to go to our sunshine story, and we always like to end on a ray of light for our audience. And this is a beautiful story about a grandfather and granddaughter.
Yeah, I love this, and this is about the United States Marines. So you have a grandfather here who served the U.S. Marines, fighting for our country. Well, guess what? His granddaughter ends up enlisting in the Marines, and over time, granddaughter eventually outranks grandfather. And when the granddaughter was getting her new stripes, or getting her new ranking, the grandfather was there in a very poignant moment, was there to salute his granddaughter.
And the thing that we loved about this story, of course the story is amazing, but the funny thing is that this actually first posted in 2013, went viral on YouTube, and what caught our attention is that it now has a whole new viewing audience on TikTok. So it's going viral now all over. It's gone viral on YouTube, then it went viral on Reddit, and now, just now, it's going viral on TikTok because people like the feel-good stories.
Yeah, that's really cool and really great.
Yeah, so we'll just keep sharing it out.
Yep, I love
10
it.
years from now, we're like, hey, remember that story?
There's a new app out there.
There's a new app out there. Well, thanks to all of you for being with us and sharing some time with us here on Good Morning Sunshine.
Yeah, and if you can, go onto YouTube right now. It's where you're watching the show. You're going to subscribe to our channel. You're going to hit that little alarm bell. That'll send you a notification every time we upload a new episode.
And we so appreciate all of you. Continue to take care of yourselves and all those around you. I'm Carey Pena alongside Brandon Lee. Take care, everyone.